Hello, my name is Stephen Montague, and I'm going to be talking to you about two projects. This right here, Going Home and the Shooter demo. These are both made with Unreal Engine. Here's a website for the Going Home game if you'd like to play it. It's still a work in progress, but I'd love feedback and ideas and uh, anything you'd like to add about it. Got this download button here, and the whole project can also be viewed if you're just wanting to look at the code quality right here. You can read about it more. Same with the shooter demo. So the shooter demo is just a C++. This one is mostly a C++ project. If you'd like the actual project, I could send it over to you. Let me show you real quickly. Where did it go? There you go. Game itself. This is a packaged version of the game. Got an introduction. We can skip that. And I forgot to show you. I was going to show you a list of things we're going to do. And the first thing we're going to do is just look at menu and UI. That's the first thing people normally see. So I've got some custom buttons on here. Sound effects at play. We've got options.
Damn, it's dark down here.
Let me turn down the story so you don't hear someone talking while I'm talking. We can, yeah, so you can change the player that you want to be in the game. You can turn down these effects a bit so they're not so loud while I'm talking. I'll hit play here. There's an instructions button. I could have showed you that too, so you have a better idea of what's going on. But it's not it's not too complicated. So, but that's a big spider. Oh, okay. So I can run around. I got this dash ability. I got a primary weapon, a secondary weapon. The characters do interact with each other based on some physics. There's some, what do you call it, smoke trails behind the weapons. There's a bit of a zoom on the last kill. I'm still working on that feature. Sometimes it works better than others. Let me see. Also we got a new level here, nighttime level. Got some different characters. If I head over to here, all right, they didn't like that. There's these barriers around the playable world space. And I've got a force field. They got people with fireballs that are shooting me. You got characters catching on fire. You got those guys controlled by an AI. See, if I shoot at them, they will jump. One just jumped, get out of the way. Didn't want me to shoot at him. Here, I can get hurt. I can get killed. Here's me getting killed. And I'm going to slowly back up. Give you a restart option. I say yes, I'd like to restart. It shows me the area that I was playing in. And then it lets me jump back in. I think I showed you I can control this. Got these different effects, sounds and whatnot. A lot of different animations and things going on. Anyway, I think I can I'm going to self-destruct my character, jump out of the game. I think we've seen enough here. Goes back to the main menu. Here's the instructions page. Nothing too fancy here, but it blends in well enough. So there was movement keys, there's aim, there's left and right mouse buttons. It's been set up, a force shield, a speed boost. There's like a barrier in Japanese maybe. Self-destruct, zoom, pause, skip level intros. These pickups that the character can add to their health, they come from the spider bodies. Everyone knows a radioactive spider can do good things for your health, like Spider-Man. Okay. Let's jump into the editor and see how I made some of these things. Yeah, so here's the list of things I wanted to show you. You have a working menu UI going there. I'll show you a little bit more about how I made that in just a second. Landscape sculpting, a tiny bit about that, how it can be useful. Materials and post-process effects. Maybe spend quite a bit of time on this because I have quite a few materials that I've worked on. The sound design, I spent a lot of time on this, but I'll just show you a little bit of it. Behavior tree, what I've done so far on that. Animations, animations are a big deal for what you see. Code quality, that's also a big deal if you're making things. I'm going to talk about that and some of the algorithms I'm interested in. But we have nothing to talk about besides that for the next 30 minutes, maybe 40. So this is the other project, the Shooter C++ project. And then over here, we got these different characters, and They got these cameras on them, and some effects going on and lighting on them. And these are used in the menu you just saw. You remember here. So this is blended in pretty nicely with the background because I got the different colors of clouds and whatnot that are blending in with these smoke dust trails. And you can select which character, the robot, or
It's dark down here.
or the player. Skip out. So those pictures involve a material. I can pull over the robot real fast. And sometimes materials are very, very simple, just a few nodes. But I've got the texture, the render texture from the camera that's coming in. That's just the basic image there. And it would be just a square blocky image on the menu. But I give it a color so that the dust looks more like it should, and the clouds in the background in particular look more like they should. And then a radial gradient here, which I use to give it a circular effect around it. And also that the black becomes clear. So that goes into the opacity. So yeah, this is a simple material, and materials can get very complicated, I'm sure, if you're a material expert. Over on this project, I've got a lot of, this is a dam and a river, and this landscaping. I sculpted this landscape here, and I said I was going to talk a bit about landscaping. Maybe I'll just mention that I got some practice sculpting this landscape over here, and then in the spider game, where you saw earlier, maybe I've got some images down here. Let's see, this one. Yeah, so maybe I started with something more like this, and it's okay, but there's no mountains or anything in the background. And then let's see, this one maybe. Yeah, so I added in, these are real mountains from Afghanistan. These were not sculpted by me, but I added these in, and they've designed it to be pretty cheap on the processor, so it looks like there's a lot of stuff out there, right? And then, but there's a bit of a line between the two. Now, if you're just playing the game quickly, you may not even notice because it looks kind of nice, and if it's dark or something, you probably might not notice. But for the daytime or whenever you are paying close attention, I know how to sculpt the landscape some. So this is not the final product, but I was working on it and just getting it to blend in more with the background. So you can see that I added some wrinkles and whatnot so that when the surface, the landscape, so that when you look off in the distance, they just kind of blend together nicely. And I tweaked the color of this out here. So let's see. I was going to talk about post-process effects, I believe. And right over here, we've got a cave. And when you go inside, it looks dark like that. See, I got a working character here. And so it's very dark in here. Very cavey looking. And this environment, there's no lines in between. The transition is quite smooth, right? This was a bit complicated to set up, but it was possible with, sorry for bouncing the screen around, post-process effects. So I created this one. Let's see, the damn door. I'll show you a simple version of it first. For most of the cave, I'm using this, which is a custom depth blend created with the help of just reading on a lot of reading on the internet, how these things work. So if you're looking at the sky, it's not going to apply that post-process effect, and if you aren't, then it'll apply this to it. Now, the actual doorway area is a bit more complicated, like I said, because you only want the effect to apply up to the door, so that's a certain space in the world. So this is a customized version of that, where it's finding out where you are in the world and applying the light, so to speak, or the fake light post-processing to the correct areas, and maximum X, Y, Z areas, and no effect on the sky. And so anyway, you want to see that this does indeed, driving crazy because I set up the camera over here. Let's see, this does indeed work. If I go to my post process and cave, I believe dam door, that's the closest one. If I disable it right here, and just walk in either way, see, it doesn't look so good, right? It's not dark. It's maybe slightly darker, but not very dark. That's the magic of the post-processing effect. Now I have a trick here in the doorway to make it look like it's dark in there from the outside. Pretty common trick people use, but as soon as you walk in, you see that it wasn't dark. That's because I disabled the post-processing effect. So keep it enabled there. If I shoot down over here, I've done something similar with water. I was learning about post-processing effects. So here I am underwater, and you can see there's kind of a depth fade effect going on here as well. And there's also these currents going through the water off to the left. And if I come over to the other side, they switch directions and go back to the right towards the dam. The water is moving towards the dam. It's a bit experimental. It's not perfect, but I can show you. Oh, and one other thing. Sorry, I jumped underground there. Okay. Press play when I was underground. Let's try that again. So when you look up, you can kind of see caustics on the surface of the water. It's still working on it, but so you got these swirling currents, and then up there, when you look up, they can tell that you're looking up, and it's got this wavy effect. Sorry, I just ran into the ground a bit there. Still some things to tweak, but let's see. The water fade effect is here, and we got light sediment swirls that are moving around at the top. You got distant wavy fog currents. Different colors of water based on depth and stuff being blended together. We got these surface caustics. What on the top is a lot of that is playing with UVs, getting the cheap movement, cheap effect. So there's probably expensive ways to do some of these things, and then cheaper ways. Post processing, I believe, tends to be cheaper. So let's see. I've talked about some of these things. Here's a very complicated post-process effect that I studied. I put all these nodes together, but based on a tutorial. And you have to understand how it works, at least to some degree. So if it breaks, you know how to fix it. But in this case, you have to be very careful because there's a lot of things that could break, right? But this controls the. Let me show you what it's for actually before I jump into the material. Yeah, so over here, we have a few different weapons that get highlighted. The different colors or items. A machine gun on the floor. Right, so I can pick that up. I can pick these up. I can walk into them and pick them up. Weapons, and it's going into an inventory there. If I switch, I changed weapons. And anyway, keeping track of the ammunition changing and whatnot. Showing you on the screen where it's going to go into your inventory. You can see a little arrow there. Now, the reason I started talking about this was those highlighting effects are due to this post-processing. And you can set the width of the outline. You can set the colors here. You can set whether or not you want it to be able to appear when it's behind a wall or not. So that's some of the things you can do with it. And there's a lot to study and learn here. These things can get pretty complicated. The landscape in this level is also, and on top of these rocks as well. I mean, I've done work on the materials here. This landscape material actually has quite a few things in it that I could use. I've used 2 of them so far. But I put this together based on a tutorial on Udemy, and then I did tweak it a little bit here to try to make the rocks have a little more detail. So I did make some changes to it, and I put it together piece by piece along with someone who was an expert guide on these things. So that's enough of this project for the moment. Let's go back to the other project and see some other cool things. I've got some other materials here that I've used. If you remember, there was a force field that pops up around the character. that's this. It's sort of one of the earlier materials I made. Wasn't too difficult because of this Fresnel effect and a ditheral temporal AA to give that clear effect, along with this normal map to get that kind of swirl look with a panner to give it motion. And there's a time variable up here with a Perlin noise texture pattern that is interpolating between these two colors. So it's this about half of that will pop up above the character, and you'll see it in game whenever you use your force field. There's a right here. There you go. You can see it for a second, and it will fade out. And normally, when it's in game, it won't pop back, but it will pop back at the moment, I believe, because I have it set to pop back. Yeah. So in the game, it appears once, and then it'll disappear because I don't have it set, the time node set to that period. So it will fade out based on the time parameters that I give it, and it gets this one parameter telling it what time in the game it was spawned, and then it'll last for the next 12 seconds, and it'll fade in and out during that time, basically. And some of this up here is similar to that force field, very similar. And then it has this one, it's a dynamic material. So this gets used, I think you saw her appear briefly. Let's see, she's invisible, right? Because I set the material to make her fade out. So this girl, Spider Queen, is blocking the player into the level area, and I believe you're going to meet her near the end for more interaction. But that material is being applied to her body, and it's a dynamic material on construction. The material is going in, that barrier material, and we apply it to her. Begin play, I'm just setting the parameter time that she responded to the level, and she faces the player. So it's a very simple blueprint here. She has a simple animation blueprint as well, but mostly that was, just a little thing, but it's fun to surprise the player a bit. But she will turn and look at the player wherever he or she is when she creates those barriers. Different animations that she does. Pop up and push the player back into the play area. So let's see, a couple more. I'm almost done with the materials, and we'll move on quickly through the rest of this. This is a boost trail, I called it. This is what is behind the player whenever load a test level real fast. Yeah, so jumping spiders here. But when you run, it pushes you in the direction you were going. When you're stopped, it comes from her legs backwards. It comes from her back when she's going forwards. So those are animation trails. The blue trail behind her, and that is controlled by the degree by this material. And it would just be white if I disconnected this color. It would just be a white block coming out behind her. And then if I didn't have this these gradients here, I use the UVs, RGB, so UVV. I guess that I'm masking out the V up and down here, and I flip it over so that it's most faded at the bottom and solid near the top, darker near the bottom and solid near the top, and you get this. So I'm going to move on so that I don't take up too much more of your time. I think you might have seen in the game, that's the test level. If I go to more exciting level and maybe the night level, that, well, give it a second. Go up here. Normally this is not how the game would start. There. Not actually one, but let's hit, and we'll take that last sample there of the mini map. There you go. I was exploding last you saw. There were a bunch of spiders. There's some rocks around. Now it looked very fuzzy, but that's actually by design. If I change this parameter here, if I said 16, it would be super fuzzy. 120, 128 or something's a little fuzzy. 64, very fuzzy. So 256 was I wanted it to look, if it looks crystal clear, sometimes it doesn't look quite real. So I wanted it to look like a screen the player has up on the corner. And the screens don't always, on the battlefield, probably have the best resolution. So there's some static that's playing across. You probably saw this texture earlier with a panner. And that gives it, at nighttime, we're using this green look. And this gradient here to kind of give it a rounded edge effect. But so yeah, I've got this staticky green looking night vision. And then if it's the parameter set to daytime or nighttime, it can change. It'll come out as this gray looking one. It's a little lighter when it's in the level. But yeah, so that's a fun use of a material right there. And maybe this will be the last one for materials. This is a high refractive donut is what I called it, because I found this donut shape on an explosion, and I put it into its own particle effect, slowed it down, created the size that I wanted, because I wanted to show the player. And the only thing I really did, I tweaked the parameters of the particle effect, and then I made it much more refractive here. I changed the refractive value. But I learned from that particle effect how you could add this. So I'll go back to the test level. If you go to the test level and you shoot the wall, you'll get all kinds of indications. Visual, you'll have up in the top right, there'll be your health bar will go down, and there's sounds of your character having a hard time breathing. You're about to die, right? But if you do it again, I want you to really know why you died is because you shot too close to something. There was an effect. I hope you saw. I'll show you again. Right there. The first time it's not there. Second time, this refraction going on, but it's kind of a force wave. It's supposed to look like a wave of air that's blasting back and hitting you from where you shot. So that you see that effect whenever you kill yourself on accident, probably with your weapons. One more time. Yeah. So that is in part due to this material right here. That donut shape is going out. There's no color. There's no emissive. In fact, if you add those, it will look worse. This is only bending the light of the area around it, and it's another kind of cool effect. So effects materials can have, I've seen hundreds of nodes people do, and then they can just be a few nodes, and you can still get a cool effect. Materials are very interesting to learn about. Now, beyond, I showed you a bit about menu and landscaping, materials, post-processing, sound effects design. I won't have to go into this too much because it's probably not the emphasis that you're going to hire me for or work with me for. Most people get dedicated sound designers. But if you need help with sound, I love the subject. I love working on it. And sometimes I have to find the sound myself. I found a sound of a 50 caliber machine gun for my robot to carry, and it looked like this. I hit play. Okay, so those are 3 sounds firing off. You cannot play this in the game; it won't sound right because the player is going to decide when they stop and start, and they all sounded a little bit different. But anyway, I could work with this, so I cut it up and save project. No, thank you. And in Engine, let's see. In Engine, if I go to sounds here, player, weapons. See, I tried to keep it organized. Gun, this is pretty simple, but I just chopped it up so that it loops. So now, pitch a little deeper. Sounds like a big gun that the robot can carry. And when it's finished, that's the sound when it finishes. Okay? So I found my own sound effect, cut it up, put it together, got it in the game, and it was pretty simple in that case. Also for like the user interface, I found this in the engine. It's a very good sound, but it's a little annoying because it's so high pitch. So I tweaked it and wrong project. I tweaked it and let's see, sound UE and select So that I layered it. I did dun 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 dun. Sorry, I'm not good at singing. But I picked 3 different pitches to make a chord. Da 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 da. And then I blended those 3 together, lowered it, and it just sounds like a computer on Star Trek now. And it's very easy to press the button many times, and you don't get annoyed. It's a nice sound. Close this down again. So some of the sounds I did a lot of work on. For instance, when I was making the story, and I didn't fade in or out or reverse the sounds or anything too much, but I had to blend together many different sounds. So let's see the ship landing story. I'm not going to play it, but it finally got edited down to about a minute 16. There are 32 different sounds that went into making this story. So if I go to the editor and I show you the sound folder and I say sound waves, I have 107 different sounds here. Most of them I had to make edits and mixing and different little effects added to them. But it's amazing what you can find from the artists out there and to start out with, and then you can work to put those into the game using called attenuation. See, take off the filter. Attenuation, concurrency, sound volumes you might need. So like on the other game over here, when you go into this tunnel, you don't hear the sound of the rushing water from the dam. Or when you're underwater, you don't hear the sound of the wind. Things like that you can accomplish with sound volumes. So I've got some experience of, I've even read some of the engine code related to sound effects, how to create them, how to put them in and make them sound good, because it's a big part of a game, and I want a game to sound great. So I think we can move on from sound effects now. And behavior trees, I'll just show you very briefly a behavior tree that I've implemented, and I'm very interested in learning more about these because AI is fascinating. But I've got controller here, the blackboard, and the behavior tree itself, as well as some decorators and tasks. So I've got 5 different actions that the spider can do. So, so I've got a close range attack, a jumping dodge. And it has a range attack, which it prefers attack directly, or if your character is moving around sporadically and it's not quite sure where you're going because its fireballs are a bit slow, so it can spray its fireballs out instead of just attacking straight at you, based on your velocity to some degree. And then also it has a random wander at like when you die and such, it might be random wandering. And I also use like this jump dodge for other cases as well. Like if he falls off the nav mesh on top of a rock, I just tell the jump, and it will jump back to the nav mesh. It's useful in other ways. And also, if you hide from this spider, he will come look for you. Just the way it's set up. So if you hide behind the rock, he's not going to keep shooting at the rock. He will come find you. There's different ways I worked on to accomplish that, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to work on and see what you can do with behavior trees. Animations. There's a lot goes into making a game look good. Animation blueprints. I've done quite a few of those. Turning in place is one mechanic that takes a little bit of work when your character turns, and naturally bending, twisting at the waist a bit, and then turning when they need to. So the most this C++ project I did, I got a lot of practice. This is the event graph, here. So I got a lot of practice blending together various state machines and poses and whatnot. These can be quite complicated. It's not too complicated when you look at it up close. So this is all running related. This is idle. This is crouching related. The first one that you go to. And if I go to the run, I have a running blend space here. And it's here, and you can see the jog forward animation is being used for that. And if you go to that, you can see there are notifies going on within the animation, so that it can tell the code to do things whenever things are happening on the screen here. And so like these notify footsteps, some of the notifies go to the anim blueprint on the event graph, like reloading and grabbing the clip. Some go straight into their own notifies. And so right here, for footsteps, I have get footsteps surface. This is implemented in C++. So we got blueprints and C++ working together here. If I go to C++ here to my shooter character, we have right here get footsteps surface. And it checks if you're underwater or not, because you don't want to make footsteps underwater. And then it's going to do line traces to determine the type of surface you're on. And I set up the code also to handle stuff about underwater. The tutorial I was following did not have anything to do with water, so I added that. These functions I wrote right here about setting whether or not you're underwater, just doing another line trace and setting the true or false, and setting the sound effects to go along with that, whether you're underwater or not, to whether or not it was playing before or not, to fade it in or out. So those are powered from an anim instance here on my character, as well as with these blueprints here. And so in this blueprint, I have several different sound effects, and the character is, let's see, like here, I press play. Here, you can hear different sounds playing, depending on the surface type or if you're underwater or not. And it will make little footprints in the snow and little, sorry, so go up here. It'll make little footprints in the snow and stuff. There's some footprints and little splashes around the feet, or if it's on the rock, it sounds like it's on rock. So there's some wind in the background. So yeah, you need animation. You need your animation to work together with the environment, and you can do that by notifies. Yeah, I think that error, I don't have to worry about that. That was started underground or something like that. But all right, where's the list of things to talk about real fast? Animation edits. I have made individual edits to animations often whenever I need to. For example, right here. So I'm not using this animation, but I can just show you quickly, like, hey, this is an animation I wanted to use, and it's not quite right. Well, I can move things around and try to get ready to play in the game. Get off. You know, I can. It usually takes a little while to get it what you want, but you can also, sometimes it's just a translation problem, so you might need to adjust some of these things for retargeting to another skeleton. But once you get it in a position that you like, that kind of thing, you can add put a root, apply a key, and then you can also view these curves down here. And sometimes these curves are useful. You'll see something that's really out of whack. And why is my character moving like that? You might just find the answer down here in the curves. You might be as simple as just deleting one key that got applied that shouldn't be there. So I can make edits to animations. There are times I've done that to fix things. I didn't make the animation to begin with, but I fixed it so that it worked now on the level. And it looks good in the end. So it's good to have a little bit of skills in different areas so you can quickly get done what needs to be done. I talked a bit about my code already. So I won't talk too much more. I'm about out of time. And I would like to show you, like, this is a shooter character with the header file here. But I've also got items in the world that inherit and well, ammunition and weapons, and these are kinds of items, so that's an inheritance relationship going on. But then say the shooter character, I don't want him to inherit any of these things. I just want him to have it, so that would be more composition. I'm going to compose my shooter character of many different things, and one of the things that my character has is a weapon or an inventory or something like that. So it's good to know about design patterns and what kind of patterns you can use, dispatchers, like I listed there, interfaces, things like that. It can help give you a clean code. Another thing that helps a lot is data tables. Well, it can help. It depends. If the game is complicated, you can use a data table and say I have different kinds of guns down there. Yeah, well, I showed you a minute ago, but there's different guns in the level. I'm going to add more guns soon while I'm working on it. But so you have different weapons here: submachine gun, assault rifle, and they all have different properties, different icons, different sounds associated with them, different names, different amounts of ammunition, and you can quickly set it up. You could design it from here. A designer could put all this information in a data table in editor, and then in your code with C++, you can efficiently, let's see, I believe it's on the weapon because that was with the weapons. So on construction, when the weapon is constructed, it fetches the data from the data table, and it sets all those values according to whatever the designer said. So the code here is doing that for us, and it works. So that's a good way to help keep your code organized and working with a level designer. Well, let's see. I didn't show you any blueprints very much yet, but blueprints need to be organized and clean as well. So even you have a heavy blueprint, and I've got a pretty heavy blueprint right here. This is my main character. Those tend to be pretty heavy, right? So there's a lot of stuff on here, but it shouldn't be hard to follow. So I've tried to document it well. I've got different functions over here. I've got some things on the graph, but you can see fire primary weapon, fire secondary weapon. Up here you can see there's this dash ability I implemented and a force field ability. Here's what happens on tick. Not much. Zooming in, zooming out with the camera. And down here, well, handling damage. That's a pretty big one, right? And exiting to the menu, pause, skipping cutscenes. These are all things that are on an event graph, but hopefully it's easy to see how things work. This is the game mode, one of the game modes at least. I think, well, maybe I only have one here, but I try to document it, and I don't have lots of overlapping things. And something people don't always know about if they just study blueprints is that you can override functions. So game modes have a get default pawn function that you can override. So this is how I'm getting different characters in the level depending on what character they selected. It checks the game instance what character it should be, and it selects that class. Oh, my daughter just came home from school. Let me pause for a second, and then I will wrap this up. Okay, so I'm back. I just left for about 5 minutes. Anyway, let me show you one more. Not the test level. I go to the level blueprint. Here, the level blueprint. Here's another. It's pretty heavy looking blueprint, right? But once again, I try to make it so it's not difficult to tell what's going on. So if you just read the comments a little bit, you can tell what's happening in each area and how I have a gameplay area and how it's worked. And I everything's labeled, so all these are north, south, east, west, different barriers. And then here's the sounds that are played. Here's the fourth barrier, VFX. This is tech handling. Spider Queen Mirage. This is cleaning up the barriers after they're spawned. So anyway, the blueprint should not be a mess, and you should try as much as possible to make them clean and easy to read, even if there's a little bit of wibble wobble going on. That you've got a lot of these connectors here, and you make it easy enough to read. Sometimes you can use variables or whatnot to help clean them up. I tried to keep things well commented. into functions or on the event graph, whichever is appropriate. So it's fun to code and fun to get in there and see how things work. Algorithms, I haven't talked about that yet. Monte Carlo tree search with predictive upper confidence bounds for trees, UCT. Monte Carlo tree search UCT is used with a lot of games with when you got a long-term strategy or complex board or card game, a long-term campaign. You want a very human feeling opponent that makes human-like mistakes and has good long-term strategies. People like the Total War people used it in their game for Rome Total War, but Google DeepMind used a version of it, the PUCT, predictive UCT, when they created their AlphaGo, AlphaZero, many variations of that. I've studied that quite a bit. And it's very interesting. It's quite simple compared to a lot of algorithms, but there's amazing things that can be done with it. So AlphaGo was used to win against the world chess champion. This is a presentation that I was doing with some classmates at Lewis University. I've done a couple presentations related to AI, and I did a lot of studying on this algorithm. And I've done a little bit with Python that worked with a version of this algorithm. So it was used to beat chess and Go champions and many other difficult to solve problem spaces and StarCraft and stuff. They've been using it. It's been in the news a number of times. So anyway, this is a great algorithm if you're interested in something besides like a behavior tree, something for more long-term thinking. There are many great algorithms out there. This is one of them that I'm very interested in working on anything related to that. So I think I've talked a lot and given you some idea of what I know, what I can do, what I can learn about. There's some things I'm still learning about multiplayer and how to make those kind of things work that it should be coming up in my skill set in the next few months. But for the time being, if I could jump in and help someone with an internship or job, that'd be awesome. But yeah, thank you for your time. I think I'm going to pause and see if I skipped anything. Oh, well, I think maybe I skipped this earlier. It's not a big deal, but I saw this lava material over here, and it's kind of fun. So, got this lava material, and I made this based on tutorial, but you can change the level of how dark it is, right? There, and I use it in the level. Used it in here, in the cave. Where is it? Over here. So I layered it with another material, and you got this very hot lava there. I might have changed its parameters just now, so it looks a little different. But it looks like it's very hot lava. And just one more way to see what materials can do for your game. I'm not a material expert or behavior tree expert or any of these yet. There's people spend 10 years, 20 years to learn awesome tricks, but I'm doing as much as I can all the time to learn more. And I would like to make great things with you. If you're working on any project, whether it's a simple game or a complex 3D game, please let me know what we could do together. Thank you for your time, and I'll sign off now. Goodbye.